G'day friends, welcome to day 18 of Mermay 2024. Today's piece is a little unusual. I decided to dump out all of my pencils. Were they the ones in the pouch? I don't even know where that pouch is. No idea. Where on earth is my pencil pouch? It's never not been right there. I don't know. I wouldn't have moved that. Maybe Steve took it? Why would Steve want my pencils? I'm really confused by this. All right, my pencil pouch may be in another dimension, but either way, I tipped out all my pencils, and my challenge to myself was, not that it was like a real challenge I had to achieve, I thought it might be a fun idea, rather, to use every single pencil and just see what I could come up with. The mermaid itself looks very interesting. Don't know where she kind of took on this creature-ish turtle shell kind of, I don't know, like she looks like a miner, like she's mining for sea coral gems or some, I don't know. It's something. And I do really love all the colors. I think all the colors are really pretty. I think the face is kind of cute, but the whole thing is just a really bizarre experiment in challenging myself to use every single pencil in my pencil pouch. So I hope you enjoy seeing that come together. You might have noticed I'm not as excitable and as, I was gonna say Genki, but if you're not Japanese, you don't know that. Happy and excited and full of energy as I typically am. I'm just really going through it. Like today, very specifically this morning, and it's stuff that I would never come online and just speak about because it's not appropriate, but at the risk of not vague booking, and just kind of putting stuff out there, be like, I'm so upset, but don't ask me what's wrong. It's just general stuff. It's general life and marriage stuff that is just really getting at me. And I hate being in this place where I feel like I have to kind of hide it, because I do have this rule with myself, or this guideline rather, a boundary, because you know what I'm like with rules. I have this boundary that when I come on here and I make these videos, that my goal is to not leave you feeling worse than when you turned up. So I hope that when you watch a video of mine, you either leave feeling the same way you came, so kind of neutral, or better. Maybe you're a little bit happier, maybe you laughed a little bit, maybe, I don't know, you felt like you wanted to go do something that was productive. Whatever it is, again, I'm not trying to inspire anyone here. I'm just saying, like, I hope that your mood doesn't go lower when you leave my video. That's not a goal of mine, and it's been a goal of mine for a really, really long time, because I realized that there's this effect we have on social media where, sometimes it's not the creator's fault either. Sometimes we as consumers go online in a bad place and kind of expose ourselves to things that'll make us feel worse, even if the content wasn't designed, in a way that could possibly even make you do that. Some people, I see a lot of that happen when people feel really insecure about their abilities or about their skills or about their accomplishments, and they go and expose themselves to a lot of people who are succeeding in the area they want to succeed in. That can oftentimes bring about a lot more upset and devastation to people who are already feeling insecure about that. I have a bit of the opposite thing happen. When I feel like that, I expose myself, like for dance, for example, when I wanted to dance for so long and I would watch other people doing the things I wanted to do, there was a part of me that would start getting like a little frustrated, very jealous, very like overwhelmed with these feelings. But then I actually got on the flip side and started to be really motivated by that, and I started using that competitive edge that I had to kind of push my motivation into overdrive, and then that would essentially become a positive, because I'd end up acting on those feelings rather than the feelings of being devastated. Not all the time, but in that way, I also knew that, people weren't putting up their videos of them having a good time dancing to make me sad. But if I were in a much worse place, maybe that would be just how I felt, and maybe I'd start getting upset about it. So I always tried to come at it from both angles, from the person who creates content and from the person who consumes content, and realize that, both those things coexist for me. And I do want to be mindful, at the very least, that I don't create content that makes people feel worse. So it's just always been a rule of mine that I don't speak boundary. I can't say rule because I will really break it just to prove myself wrong. I think I have oppositional defiance disorder. Very undiagnosed, but I'm sure I do. The boundary I have is that I don't talk about open wounds, just scars. And this was something I learned a long time ago where, you know, when you're talking about things that are still in process, when you're talking about like an open wound of an emotional feeling you have, of an experience you're going through, you know, whilst it's being treated and healing, oftentimes, you know, it's, for me, not a great idea to have other people's input. It's not a great idea to involve too many people into that process. I kind of need to be in that by myself or with a very small group of people. And other ideas and conflicting opinions start to muddy up the process for me in healing, because I do kind of validate, you know, all the different possibilities there could be, and I can't chase down every single one. So, you know, if I come on here and say, hey, I'm having XYZ problem, I do get thousands of responses. What, that's an exaggeration, but I could get, you know, at least 10 responses that would be like, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do this? I did that. This worked for me. That didn't work for me. This, you know what I mean? It's just a lot of information coming into an already stressful process. So for me, I kind of protect myself that way as well. I also do it because, and primarily because I feel like it can be very triggering. And triggering is a word that I'm not like the biggest fan of, but for what it means and what people understand of it, I use it. I do believe that it can be a little bit much to come on here and to throw a bunch of, you know, essentially trauma dump on an audience, have people relate and empathize with you in a way because they also have experienced similar things. You know, they open up to you about it. They start to pour in this emotional investment into something where they might have just been here to have, you know, watch me draw a mermaid. It's all fun on the surface, right? But now you're watching this video and you start to relate and you start to pour into that. You're essentially like reaching into a deeper part of yourself that maybe you weren't expecting to. And so you start to unearth some of these feelings. You start to consider, oh, I have a story like that. When I went through, you know, I'm kind of triggering it. I'm like pulling it out of you. And if there is not some resolution in the video that I'm, you know, bringing up these difficult topics in, it's almost like, hey, let me pull all this emotion out of you and then peace, like hit and run. It can feel like, you know, especially if you, it's different if you guys are also in a healed place as well, because at that point you're like, okay, well, I empathized, I gave over some emotion, and that's it for me. I'm healed from that, so I'll move on with my day. But there are a lot of people that aren't in that place, that might also be going through it the way you're going through it, and you kind of bring them into that. I've noticed this a lot in art journaling because a lot of people art journal through depression. And not to say that this is what people should do or that, you know, I think I've got the right answer here, but I do sometimes worry that whilst people are in the really deep throes of depression, when relating to other people on that and other people are joining in and saying, you know, I am experiencing that too, I'm also in this really bad place, when there's no resolution there, that those feelings kind of compound and exponentially grow to a point where, you know, you weren't really there for that, but now you're in it and you can't take the emotions out of it and you're attached, and that parasocial relationship becomes really, really strong. And then you're almost leaning on each other. And again, without resolution, you're kind of along for the ride on someone else's, you know, wave of depression as well. So when they're having bad times, it's reflecting on bad times you're having, and it just kind of feels heavier and heavier and heavier. I don't know too much about clinical depression, so I won't speak too much on that. But it's one of those things that I just kind of remain aware of, even though that's not something I share from. There are lots of stories that I have that I have found healing in that I've decided to share online. But then there are these moments where I feel like I don't even know what I'm going through today. I mean, I have a very good idea of it. A lot of it is so personal and so, you know, not relevant to what I'd be talking about in a Mermay video, but I get online and it's still me that has to show up and chat. And so I feel like I battle this part of like, leave that over there. And I'm very good at compartmentalizing, but sometimes I feel like it's really unhealthy for me. And so I feel like leave that part over there, get on here, have a great time, deal with it once it's over. And I typically do that. But this morning, I don't know why, I just felt like telling you I am just kind of in it right now. I don't feel like sharing it because at this point, I think if I share it, it's very much in one of those places where it's an open wound, and it would encourage you to kind of search through your own history to relate and empathize with what I'm going through. And because I don't really have any answers for it, we could all just be sat here thinking and contemplating these types of feelings and thoughts, whereas that can just be for me. You all don't need to be on that journey with me. in another sense, I've just talked to you all about it. So maybe you are thinking about things that are heavy and, distressing, and things that you would probably struggle to not, you know, speak about if you were creating content, if you were vlogging your life, or if you, because that's the thing too, like I do art journaling. It's a lot about my life and my stories, but it's not like I'm saying, hey, this is what I did today. I mean, I couldn't even imagine there'd be some days where I'd be like, I was just depressed. I didn't do anything. There's the video. What are you supposed to do? I think it's a really vulnerable place to be in, to make your livelihood vlogging your actual life. You know, you're making your own reality show about yourself and being the producer of it. It's really all up to you on YouTube. You can say and do whatever you want to a degree, but there are consequences for it. I think the biggest consequence I've ever seen is I follow a community online that do weight loss. And I never really got into it for weight loss. I actually got into it because someone was making commentary videos, and I thought the commentary on it was fascinating. And so I watched it, and then I watched another commentary video, then I watched another commentary video, and then they all devolved into like drama channel videos, and then it was just tons and tons and tons and tons of content that I watch to this day. I think I've been a part of that community for 6 or 7 years, but I still watch it all. The unbelievable amount of issues that have arisen due to people deciding what they want to share online and other people's opinions about it. And it's all in process, right? Like a weight loss journey is one of those things that you can really tell if it's still in process. If you're saying, I got to lose 200 pounds and we're not seeing it, a lot of people weigh in on that, and that can feel really heavy for people. And then people feel the need, I mean, especially the people that I've watched, to lie about it, to say, no, well, I did lose 40 pounds, but then they can't prove it. And all these people start to think, well, now you're lying to us. Why are you lying to us? We're supporting you, and now you're treating us like garbage. And they're like, well, I don't know you in real life. You're not my friends. This is all parasocial. Why do you care? And those people care because they're on the weight loss journey with you. They watched it because they thought you'd inspire them, and now you're not. Now you're lying to them, and it becomes a huge community of people just going like that against each other, and it's nuts. It's actually ended in lawsuits. One of the people that I was watching has passed away from illnesses related to, her eating disorders. Sorry to get super heavy on you, but these are the things that like actually happen when you, I guess, don't think about the type of content that you're creating and the community that you are creating and talking to, and not treating them as real people. It is so easy for me to pretend like no one's actually there, because if I look beyond this camera, it's just the outside world and there's no one there. It's like a road. There's people driving around and stuff, but I don't picture any one specific person watching this. I have a general idea of who's watching, but I always pretend like, it's got to be like me watching. If I would watch this and I'd be irritated by it, I'm not going to do it. If I'd watch this and like it, I'll show it to you. So hopefully, not everyone's going to love your content either way, but hopefully it fosters a real kind of authentic community that's sustainable, that has longevity, but also, that is relevant to the things that you're doing and you're talking about. But I think, especially when I relate it to that weight loss kind of community, the errors that I've seen people make really do come down to the fact that a lot of and it's hard because in that space, you really are sharing the open wound. They're sharing a lot about why they gained a lot of weight, the types of trauma that they've been through that have led them to having these eating disorders, the things that they've tried and failed at. So there's this really big sense of, having not succeeded and being a failure. And there's a lot of, emotional, societal, kind of sometimes financial, different factors that go into it that are all specific to each person. And I think the thing that started to really snowball for every one of them was when they made their livelihood YouTube. Because whereas, when you go to job, you clock in for your job, you have to think about what you're doing while you're there, you leave, you go home, then you live your real life. Suddenly these people's real lives that they were already kind of struggling in became the money that they needed to have the real life. And a lot of them found really quick success because a lot of us were watching it. And so they were incentivized to keep making the types of content they were making because they'd get thousands and thousands of views and therefore thousands and thousands of dollars. One of the creators I was watching was earning up to $20,000 a month at one point. And unfortunately, that success came due to the fact that she was having a really, really difficult time, and most people wanted to watch what was going to happen. And there's a really fine line for most of them, and I think most of them have crossed it at this point, between earnestly getting online and saying, hey, I'm going to do this journey and I want you to come along with me and we can be accountability buddies, we can be support for each other, this is a real thing, you get on board, I'll get on board. The very obvious human failures that happen, because they happen to all of us, and then that thin line over to train wreck, where most people who are staying to watch are just curious to see what's going to happen next, because the money aspect, like the financial reward, incentivized a lot of really bad behaviors. And I would think the same thing. I mean, imagine if I got on here and was like, I hear all the things I'm going through today and I hate X, Y, and Z, and this was so mad to me and I hated this. And imagine 50,000 people out of nowhere watched that video and were like, we love that. Your personality's great. I love when you get angry about stuff. You should get angry more often. And then I think, well, yeah, if people are going to watch that, if people are going to enjoy me being angry and I just made hundreds of dollars off one video, why wouldn't I do that again? That's great. I should just do that. That would be my first thought. What if I did it again? Slowly, the people that were here for what they thought they were here for are going to leave, because it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Maybe the 50,000 people that watched it the first time grow to 60,000, 100,000. I might be more and more incentivized. The hundreds of dollars per video might become thousands of dollars per video. I mean, it's not hard to gain success like that on YouTube. If you hit the algorithm right and you're monetized, like, it can really quickly take you off course to following the dollar. And it also might feel good for me to just vent it out. Realistically, I know I'm talking to people, but I only know that because I remember that. A lot of people can just sit here and look at this and be like, I'm going to vent all this out. I'm in my room by myself. It's private. I'm just going to say what I want to say, and whatever. I'm just going to put it out there and people can watch, but I don't really care, because you might feel like that. It's not private. It's not just you and the camera. If you put it on YouTube, it's you and potentially billions of people. So, you know, these experiences that I've watched play out have just constantly I just be reminded constantly that there is an impact, no matter what the type of content is. I don't want people to leave feeling worse. I don't want people to feel like they're not being respected. You know, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I don't end up doing it, there better be a seriously good reason. That's not even just financially related. If you've paid me for something, it's got to happen. But, you know, if I say like, oh, I'm doing a YouTube video every Friday and then I don't, I still consider that a promise I've made that I would have to be accountable for. So I'll either put it up late, or I think every time I put it up late. I think I've done it a few times. I don't think there's ever been a time I've skipped it. If there has, I'm sure there was an incredibly good reason, but I really don't think so. Because those are the things that I think, you know, they irritate the life out of me when it happens. So I've just got to make sure I'm not doing the same thing. It's just really easy to accidentally become a hypocrite. Do you know what I mean? We think differently in different ways. I think differently as a creator than I do as a consumer. So anyway, I hope I've left you, Steve's calling, so I gotta go, but I hope I've left you feeling at least neutral today. Interesting topic. Maybe we'll chat more about it later. Goodbye.